In 1872, a photograph was captured in London that would shake everything we thought we knew about life and death. In it, a 12-year-old girl sits quietly in a Victorian chair, staring directly into the camera with eyes that seem to hold the weight of unseen worlds. This is the story of Emily Crawford, the young medium who unsettled Victorian society, and whose haunting gift forever blurred the line between the living and the dead. To truly understand Emily's extraordinary tale, we must first step back into Victorian London in 1872. It was a city of striking contrasts. The Industrial Revolution was in full force, creating wealth and opportunity for the rising middle class. Yet at the same time, death was a constant shadow. Child mortality rates were devastating, and diseases such as cholera, tuberculosis, and typhoid fever swept away entire families in mere days. In every household, grief lingered like an unwelcome guest. In this atmosphere of endless mourning, the spiritualist movement found eager followers. Originating in the United States in 1848 with the famous Fox sisters, spiritualism soon crossed the Atlantic and captivated Britain's intellectual elite. Distinguished scientists, celebrated writers, and even members of the royal family attended séances, desperate for some glimmer of contact with their lost loved ones. London quickly became the heart of this strange new fascination. Elegant homes in Bloomsbury and Kensington turned into séance salons, where mediums promised to open doors to the beyond. Even Queen Victoria herself, broken by the death of Prince Albert in 1861, frequently sought comfort from mediums, fueling a national obsession with spirit communication. Emily Crawford was born in a modest brick house in Whitechapel, a neighborhood that would later become infamous for the horrors of Jack the Ripper. The daughter of a dock worker and a seamstress, Emily appeared to be an ordinary child until the age of 8. It was on a cold November morning in 1868 when her strange gift first revealed itself. Emily was playing alone in the small yard behind the house when her parents overheard her speaking in lively conversation. Curious, her mother Rose stepped outside, only to find Emily sitting there alone, yet continuing a detailed dialogue with someone unseen. "Who are you talking to, darling?" Rose asked, scanning the empty yard. "With the lady in the blue dress," Emily answered sweetly. "She says she used to live here before us." A chill ran down Rose's spine. The house had once belonged to Beatrice Sterling, a widow who had died in that very home 3 years earlier. Beatrice had been known throughout the neighborhood for always wearing pale blue-gray dresses, a detail Emily could never have known. From that day on, Emily's conversations with the unseen became frequent and unsettling. She described people who had died long before her birth, recalling intimate details of their lives that both fascinated and disturbed those who listened. Her father, Albert, worried about her sanity, decided to put her to the test. He took Emily to the old St. Bartholomew's Cemetery, a place of leaning gravestones and crumbling inscriptions avoided by most except during burials. As they wandered among the graves, Emily played idly at first, gathering fallen leaves. Then suddenly she stopped before a weathered headstone. Her face grew distant. Her voice dropped into a tone far older than her years. "Mr. Frederick wants me to say something," she murmured. Albert read the inscription. Frederick Ashworth, 1801 to 1845, devoted father and beloved husband. He says his wife Catherine never found the letters he hid behind the loose brick in the fireplace. Emily continued, her voice calm but strange. He wants her to know he always loved her, even when they argued about money. Albert's knees weakened. As a boy, he had known the Ashworth family. He remembered Catherine as a bitter woman who never stopped complaining about her late husband's coldness. Determined to check, Albert traced Catherine's relatives. To his horror and awe, he discovered that after Catherine's death, a bundle of love letters had been found, tucked behind a loose brick in the Ashworth fireplace, exactly as Emily had said. News of Emily's abilities spread quickly through London's neighborhoods. Sensationalist newspapers, eager for stories that sold, wasted no time. Soon, whispers of the medium girl of Whitechapel reached the glittering drawing rooms of Mayfair and Belgravia. The first to seek her out was Lady Isabella Fairfax, a wealthy widow who had lost her only son in a riding accident 2 years earlier. Having spent fortunes on séances with no comfort, Lady Fairfax reluctantly ventured into the squalid East End. She stepped down from her carriage onto the filthy, crowded streets, her silks and jewels jarring against the backdrop of poverty. Inside the humble Crawford home, 9-year-old Emily waited in a patched cotton dress, her hair tied simply in braids. There were no candles, no rituals, just a child in a wooden chair, calmly facing one of the richest women in London. "I can try to speak with your son, madam," Emily offered, as casually as if she were offering a cup of tea. Lady Fairfax nodded, trying to hold back her tears. Moments later, Emily began to describe Oliver Fairfax, her deceased boy, in startling detail. His love for butterflies, his hidden fear of thunderstorms, even the scar on his knee from a childhood fall. Secrets no one else could have known. The most chilling moment came when Emily, speaking in Oliver's very voice, revealed the existence of a diary hidden beneath a floorboard in his room, a diary Lady Fairfax had never seen. Days later, it was found exactly where Emily said it would be. By now, Emily's name had captured the attention of London's scientific circles, especially those intrigued by the growing study of psychic phenomena. Dr. Reginald Pembroke, a respected physician and member of the Royal Society, decided to investigate. A skeptic turned curious after witnessing unexplainable cases in his own practice. Pembroke arranged a series of experiments with Emily in March 1869. He presented her with objects belonging to the dead, items she had never seen and could not have known about. The results were astonishing. When handed a soldier's pocket watch from the Crimean War, Emily instantly described scenes of the battlefield. She spoke of freezing winds, the deafening roar of gunfire, the smell of blood and smoke. She even named specific soldiers from the regiment. Later, Dr. Pembroke checked military records. Every name, every detail matched, though none of it had ever been published. During these investigations, Dr. Pembroke noticed that Emily's body often underwent disturbing physical changes. Her temperature would plummet to dangerously low levels, her pupils widened unnaturally, and at times her breathing slowed until it was almost undetectable. Even more mysterious was what Pembroke later termed temporal automatic writing. In her trances, Emily would suddenly begin writing in calligraphic styles completely foreign to her own, using words, phrases and expressions from eras long before her birth. As Emily's notoriety grew, the Crawfords were soon approached by entrepreneurs eager to profit from her abilities. In 1870, at just 10 years old, Emily was persuaded to hold public séances in rented halls across central London. These events drew immense crowds. People from every walk of life, grieving parents, desperate widows, curious scientists, skeptical journalists, all paid good money to witness the strange powers of the child medium. The atmosphere in these halls was electric, thick with both hope and doubt. The format of these sessions was simple. Emily sat in a plain wooden chair, surrounded only by candles she claimed helped the spirits appear. There were no elaborate tricks, no complex instruments, just a child, her voice, and the unseen forces she claimed to channel. One unforgettable night in October 1870, Emily entered a trance and spoke as Sir Nathaniel Harrington, an influential politician who had died 6 months earlier in a suspicious carriage accident. Through her, Sir Nathaniel accused government officials of corruption. To the shock of all, the revelations later proved true, sparking a scandal that rattled Westminster itself. But a claim came with backlash. The Anglican Church denounced Emily's séances as demonic, accusing her family of exploiting innocence for evil. Newspapers began to publish articles suggesting fraud. The harshest critic was a famed magician, Vincent Sterling, better known as the Great Misterioso, who declared publicly that Emily's feats could be explained as mere tricks of illusion. He challenged the girl to a public confrontation, promising to expose her deception. The duel was set for December 1871 at the Royal Opera House. Reporters from across Europe flocked to London to cover what was soon called the trial of the century. The Grand Theatre filled with nobles, scientists, clergy and skeptics, all eager to witness the clash between the girl medium and the master illusionist. An independent commission established strict rules. Both Emily and Sterling would perform under identical controlled conditions with no access to hidden props or assistance. Sterling, a master of cold reading and psychological manipulation, had humiliated many fraudulent mediums before and expected to do the same again. The first trial involved a simple gold wedding ring. Emily was handed the object and immediately fell into a trance. Her voice deepened, adopting a faint Scottish accent. Helena McGrath was my name. I died of tuberculosis in Edinburgh in 1863. My husband Douglas never knew I was carrying a daughter when I left this world. The hall fell silent. Commission members quickly confirmed the truth. The ring had indeed belonged to Helena McGrath. Records showed she was pregnant when she died, though her husband never learned of it. When Sterling's turn came, he impressed the crowd with clever guesses and psychological tricks. Yet his revelations lacked the precision and depth of Emily's trance. For hours, the confrontation continued with increasingly difficult tests. Time and again, Emily delivered details that no illusion could explain. Sterling relied on showmanship, while the child seemed to channel knowledge beyond the grave. The night's most haunting moment came when the commission handed Emily a small silver locket. She clutched it tightly and tears rolled down her cheeks. Her voice changed again, this time into that of a terrified young girl. "Mommy, why don't you come get me? It's so cold here under the ground. I'm afraid of the dark." The theater was shaken. Mothers sobbed openly. Even Sterling, usually composed, looked rattled. The commission revealed the locket had belonged to Lucy Ashford, a 6-year-old who drowned 3 years earlier. Her grieving parents, present in the audience, confirmed through tears that Emily's mannerisms and words were identical to their lost child. That night, Vincent Sterling admitted defeat. For the first time, the great Mysterioso confessed that some forces lie beyond human explanation. This moment cemented Emily Crawford as the most celebrated medium of her generation. By early 1872, she had become an international sensation. Letters flooded in from across Europe, begging for consultations or simply praising her gift. Amid this frenzy, the idea arose to capture Emily's powers on camera, a permanent photographic record. Photography was still young, costly, and technically demanding. Long exposure times made it impossible to photograph Emily during her trances. Dr. Pembroke, now her mentor and protector, proposed an alternative. "Let's capture her at rest," he said, "at a moment when she feels the spirits around her. Perhaps the camera will reveal what our eyes cannot." The chosen photographer was Cornelius Hartwell, a celebrated portrait artist of London's elite. Known for capturing not only faces but the very essence of his subjects, Hartwell agreed to the challenge. The session was arranged for March 1872 in his Piccadilly studio. By then, Emily, only 12, had already aged beyond her years. Her eyes, once bright and childlike, now carried a heaviness that no child should bear. In the nights leading up to the sitting, she reported eerie dreams of shifting shadows and whispering voices that called her by name. Concerned for her daughter's mind, Rose Crawford considered cancelling. But Emily insisted, "They want to be seen, Mama. Photography is their proof." On March 23rd, London awoke beneath a heavy fog, the city cloaked in a ghostly veil befitting the occasion. Emily arrived at Hartwell's third-floor studio with her parents and Dr. Pembroke. The space was flooded with natural light from towering windows, the neutral backdrop carefully arranged, and a single chair placed at its center. Dressed in a plain, dark gown that contrasted with her pale skin, her hair brushed neatly back, Emily sat quietly, her young face carrying the weight of countless invisible eyes. Hartwell adjusted the massive wooden camera on its tripod, preparing to capture an image that would change everything. The photographic plates were prepared with meticulous care. Capturing a single image required nearly 3 full minutes of exposure, during which Emily had to remain completely motionless. "There's something unusual in the air today," Hartwell muttered as he adjusted the camera's lenses. "It feels as though we're being watched." Dr. Pembroke, armed with thermometers and instruments, began noting environmental conditions. When Emily entered, the studio measured 18 degrees. But as soon as she took her place in the chair, the temperature began to plummet. Emily sat with uncanny composure, her gaze fixed directly on the camera, yet her eyes seemed to pierce beyond it, as if staring into some faraway horizon invisible to others. Her hands rested quietly on her lap, her breathing slower, deeper, until nearly imperceptible. "They are here," she whispered, lips barely moving. "They all came for the photograph." Hartwell positioned himself behind the heavy camera, hand poised over the lens cap. The studio fell into complete silence. Even the noises from the busy streets below seemed to vanish. "Now," Hartwell commanded, lifting the cap to begin the 3-minute exposure. The moment the lens opened, extraordinary phenomena erupted at once. Pembroke recorded a sudden 8-degree temperature drop. The candles, steady just moments before, flickered violently despite the air being perfectly still. Emily remained still, but her expression shifted, her eyes darting occasionally as if tracking unseen figures moving about the studio. Rose Crawford shivered as she realized Emily's gaze often fixed on patches of empty air. Even Pembroke's instruments betrayed strangeness. His chronometer faltered erratically, while his compass spun wildly, as though invisible magnetic forces were at war within the room. By the second minute of exposure, Hartwell felt his sanity tremble. Through the camera's viewfinder, he saw shifting shadows around Emily, vague, human-like forms arranging themselves deliberately within the frame. "Do you see that?" whispered Albert Crawford, pointing toward the space behind his daughter. The others, straining, saw nothing. Yet all of them felt it. The heavy, undeniable presence of unseen beings crowding the room, as though a host of silent watchers awaited their moment of capture. At the close of the 3rd minute, Emily's lips parted, but the voice that emerged was not her own. It carried an older cadence, with a faint Irish lilt. "The truth will be revealed in the image. What eyes cannot see, light will preserve forever." Hartwell quickly replaced the lens cap. Emily blinked as if waking from a long dream. The studio's temperature began to normalize and Pembroke's instruments steadied. The photograph, however, required hours to develop. Determined to ensure accuracy, Hartwell vanished into his darkroom to work alone, leaving the Crawfords and Pembroke waiting anxiously. While they waited, Pembroke compiled his notes. The anomalies defied all scientific standards: the sudden localized drop in temperature, the magnetic disturbances that radiated directly from Emily's position. 4 tense hours later, Hartwell emerged, pale and shaken. In his trembling hands lay the damp photographic plate. "I don't know how to explain this," he stammered. "I checked everything 3 times. There are no errors, but what you're about to see." He held the image against the window, letting daylight spill across its surface. Gasps filled the room. Emily appeared as expected at the center of the image, her youthful face gazing outward with haunting intensity. But surrounding her were shapes that no one had posed. Human figures, faint yet distinct, layered within the frame. Men, women, children, their clothing from bygone eras. Some stood just behind Emily's chair. Others hovered above her, defying gravity itself. These were not smudges or flaws in the plate. Their faces were detailed, their features unmistakable. Rose immediately recognized Beatrice Sterling, the widow in blue who had once owned their house, standing close behind Emily's shoulder. Albert spotted Frederick Ashworth, the very man whose spirit Emily had spoken for years earlier in the cemetery. Word of the image spread quickly. Hartwell's studio soon became a hub of feverish activity. Photography experts were summoned, combing through the glass plates, the chemicals, even the very camera. Professor Marcus Whitfield of the Royal Academy led the most rigorous study. His conclusions stunned the scientific world. "This image is authentic. There are no signs of double exposure, no overlays, no trickery." The spectral figures were captured in the original exposure, alongside the girl herself. Other experts tried to rationalize it. Some suggested reflections or hidden mirrors. Yet when the studio was carefully reconstructed, no reflective surfaces could be found that might create such illusions. The fame of the photograph came at a terrible cost. The 12-year-old medium, already burdened by constant public scrutiny, began to unravel. Emily's nights were tormented by nightmares in which the spectral figures from the photo appeared, speaking to her in endless whispers. By day, she drifted into trances, distracted by voices no one else could hear. Rose noticed her daughter's health failing. Her weight dropped alarmingly, dark shadows formed under her eyes, and she seemed to age far too quickly. "They never leave me alone," Emily confessed to Dr. Pembroke during one visit. "Even when I'm awake, they whisper. They always want me to deliver their messages. I just want to be a normal child." Pembroke's examinations confirmed the severity of her decline. Her body temperature remained chronically low, her pulse irregular, and she showed signs of anemia despite a healthy diet. More troubling were the episodes he classified as dissociative. Emily would lose all sense of her own identity, speaking as though she was one of the dead. At times she spoke in languages she had never studied, and described historical events with knowledge no child her age could possibly possess. On the morning of September 15, 1872, Rose Crawford awoke to a chilling discovery. Emily's bed was empty. There were no broken locks, no shattered windows, no signs of struggle. The front door had remained bolted shut through the night. It was as if Emily had simply vanished into thin air. Her disappearance sent shockwaves through Victorian London. The Metropolitan Police launched one of the largest search operations of the era. Officers combed alleys, abandoned warehouses, and hidden corners of the city. Posters bearing Emily's face were plastered on every wall, and a substantial reward was promised to anyone with information. Dr. Pembroke conducted his own inquiry, questioning everyone who had seen Emily in the weeks before. He uncovered an unsettling pattern. Emily had often spoken of a journey she must take, of people waiting for her in a distant place. Witness accounts from the night of her disappearance deepened the mystery. A flower seller near London Bridge swore she saw a girl resembling Emily just past midnight, walking toward the Thames, though she appeared to be following figures the witness herself could not see. A night guard at Highgate Cemetery reported glimpsing a small child wandering among the tombs. When he rushed to investigate, he found only tiny footprints in the damp soil, tracks that ended abruptly near an old mausoleum. What disturbed investigators most was the consistency of these accounts. Every witness described Emily as though she wasn't alone, as if she were being guided by unseen companions through the sleeping city. Decades passed, but the mystery of Emily Crawford only deepened. Theories multiplied. The police favored the idea that Emily, pushed to the brink of madness, had run away and met her end somewhere in the sprawl of London. But this explanation failed to account for the locked house and the eerie precision of the witness testimonies. Paranormal scholars insisted her fate was supernatural, that Emily had finally crossed over, called into the spirit world she had served since childhood. They cited her repeated mentions of a journey as proof she had willingly answered the call of the dead. Dr. Pembroke, haunted by her case until his death, proposed a far stranger possibility. He believed Emily had become more than a medium, that she had evolved into a living conduit between worlds. Years of exposure to spectral forces, he argued, had altered her very composition, allowing her to slip into another dimension beyond human sight. More than 150 years later, the enigma remains. Emily Crawford's photograph still defies explanation. Scientists confirm its authenticity, yet no one can account for the spectral faces immortalized beside her. Her story forces us to confront questions that stretch beyond ghost tales, questions about the very fabric of existence. If consciousness can survive death, if dimensions occasionally collide, if certain individuals are born with gifts that break the known laws of nature, then Emily's life may be proof of truths we still refuse to face. What became of her? Did she find peace in some higher realm? Did she succumb to the crushing weight of her gift? Or does she still drift somewhere between realities, a silent bridge connecting two worlds? One fact remains unshakable: her legacy. In an age when science was accelerating toward progress, Emily Crawford was a stark reminder that some mysteries remain beyond reason. Her photograph stands as a doorway into a past where the border between science and sorcery blurred. A haunting reminder that our universe still harbors secrets we cannot yet explain. The story of Emily Crawford is not just about a vanished girl. It is about the unending hunger to understand the unknown. Every old photograph, every forgotten record, might still conceal evidence of realities we've yet to uncover. And if this journey through the shadows of Victorian history has stirred your curiosity, know this: there are more archives to explore, more images that defy logic, more stories that whisper from the darkness of time. Subscribe to the channel and join us each week as we uncover another hidden mystery, another forbidden archive, another case that challenges the very boundaries of what we believe to be real.